I teach my children today to sell as a primary skill that they need to have, because the person that brings the revenue is the person that controls the business really in the end. I became CEO of Stanbic IBTC Pensions just before I was my 34th birthday. Wow. I became ED in the bank in 2011. I was 36. Wow. The only person that meets you in your house is an armed robber. Every other person you have to go outside to meet. If for any reason you think that your goals are now disconnected from the organization and the leadership, change your work address. Sometimes your role is to be number 2, not number 1. So many people think about leading by being in front. They don't realize that sometimes you lead by being at the back.
The ultimate reward you get from working in an organization is not the salary. It's who you become at the end of that journey. Hi everyone, you're welcome once again to the Connecting Deep podcast. My name is Myles and I'm so excited about this week's guests. He's a phenomenal guy. I've known him since 2018 and he's inspired me personally. His life, his journey has inspired me personally, and I can't wait for you to experience him, in today's episode. I just want to ask everyone, if you have not, please be part of this amazing community, be part of this amazing podcast. Please, if you haven't, subscribe, like, and, after the episode, go to the comment section, leave your thoughts, and I'll be very happy to interact with you in the comment section. I don't want to say much. Let's dive right into today's episode. Good day, everyone. You're welcome once again to another episode of your favorite podcast, the Connecting Deep with Myles podcast. And I'm excited today. I'm actually very excited because our guest is when people say they caught a big fish, that's exactly what happened to me. I wasn't expecting him so soon on the podcast because he lives in a different continent, but I just happened to have the good fortune of reaching out to him when, he planned to visit us, and we have him here. So let me quickly introduce him. So our guest today has almost 30 years experience, working across Africa, especially in setting up and supporting companies as a leader, an active board member in healthcare, in finance, insurance, oil and gas, with significant conceptual and implementation experience. Now, he's a co-founder of a number of impactful companies as well as an advisor to a number of entrepreneurs in key sectors. He's an investor and operator in his areas of interest. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today Mr. Obinnia Abajue. I hope I got that right.
You tried. Hi, Myles. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, same here. I'm so excited, and I'm sure that, as this conversation goes on, our viewers would know why I am excited. Okay. So, Obinnia, first of all, so just a bit of context to this. I've known Obinnia for a while. Many years ago now, I don't know, maybe like 2018 or so, I just got a text message from him. At that time, I had finished working on a project for Shell, and I think that the head of medical administration in Shell at the time had spoken to him about me, and he reached out to me, and at the time, he was the CEO of Hygia HMO, and he reached out to me to do some work for them. And that was my first encounter with Obinnia. I've always admired him. I've always had a lot of respect for him. And I consider it a privilege to have him on the podcast. So, Obinnia, once again, you're welcome.
Thank you, Myles. Thank you. And I appreciate your reaching out to me. Clearly, I enjoyed our interaction when we met, and always thought of the quality of the things that you did as being high. So when you reached out, I thought to myself, why not? I mean, I maintain a policy of trying to be as available as I can be when people ask me to participate. After all, you can only communicate what you know when you have the opportunity to do so, in the hope that it will be a blessing to other people. So very grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's get into it. So tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, thanks. So I you read my profile, almost 30 years experience, and I've walked an interesting journey over the
Okay.
years,
Okay.
and I've been privileged to meet really good people as I've gone along. And I've had the opportunity to start, interestingly, very young. My dad was very clear about the things that he thought I should do, and I was always very keen to listen to him
Okay.
and do what he asked me to, believing that he knew more than I did anyway, and it would not lead me astray. And for me, it's worked as a policy.
Okay. Okay.
But going on from there, I was also privileged to have met really good people who had great intentions towards me to support me. That's also been a cornerstone of what I try to do to support people as I meet them along the way of life.
Okay.
I went into banking, even though my background was actuarial science
Okay.
and accounting.
Okay.
And went into banking, investment banking, and therefrom into asset management, and then into pensions, and pensions into retail banking into healthcare. And now pretty much I'm doing a lot of board work to follow
Okay.
up on that, investing in companies, supporting the entrepreneurs and the likes. It seems now, with hindsight, to be quite unusual, but I don't think at any point in time it seemed to be something that was out of the way. All right, so I'm grateful because all those experiences come together to shape my thoughts, shape my approach to things, and the counsel that I give to people that I deal with now.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I want us to take a deeper dive into some of your experience. I know that you know, in your banking career, you were privileged to rise through the ranks, you know, very quickly. And tell us a bit about that, you know. Yeah.
Okay. It's very difficult to talk about my career journey without talking about people like Mr. Atedo Peterside, all right, who I met very early on as my very first employer. And I got the opportunity to work quite closely with him. And I dare say imbibe some of his habits. All right. I mean, when you're young and you're working with someone like that, all right, who is a character all by himself and very disciplined in the things that he believes. So I learned quite a lot. I also learned from Yinka Sonny, who was then my next supervisor for a long time. I think between them, they must have been my bosses for the most of my career, and provided stability, counsel, and because they were of the same mold, it also helped in shaping how I see things in lots of stuff that I do. Because they believed in young people, I think it made a lot of difference to my approach to life and business as well. And I was given the opportunity at a very young age to go lead something, start something, and allowed to experiment with it. And with the success and the output, all right, I then got promoted very quickly. All right. So, I mean, I often say to people that the road to success, all right, is the road of sales. If you won't step out and take a risk, all right, you can't create value. If you can't create value, all right, it's very difficult to make progress. So I teach my children today to sell, all right, as a primary skill that they need to have, because the person that brings the revenue is the person that controls the business really in the end.
Fantastic. Right. Fantastic.
So, so I got the opportunity to be in front, learn to engage customers, and I had to learn to do away with all those ideas of you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, or you're whatever. Just forget all that stuff. All right, focus on being able to think about value, communicate value, execute to deliver the value, and then pocket the paycheck.
Fantastic. So this is quite interesting for me because I teach sales, and in fact, a lot of things you are saying resonate with me because now I've always been introverted. You know, my growing up was quite interesting. I went through some experiences growing up that resulted in me having very low self-esteem at some point as a teenager, and so I grew up being very introverted. But early on, when I began my own entrepreneurial journey, I realized that, you know when you're starting a business, you know, sometimes, and you don't have the resources to hire people like an accountant, a salesperson, you have to be everything. You have to be the salesperson, you have to be the accountant. So I had to sell. And I mean, it was tough. I quickly recognized the difference between selling with a car and selling without a car, you know, but I just realized that, look, if you're going to build the muscles that guarantee success, you have to learn how to sell. So when I go to banks, I train sales in a number of the top banks in Nigeria, and so this is like entry-level classes, and I asked them, first of all, that how many of you would want to get into sales? Usually nobody wants to go into sales, because everybody just thinks it's tedious and all of that. And then I begin to explain to them that, look, it's first of all, it's the way to rise faster within the organization.
Absolutely.
And beyond the organization, even if you're going to start a business tomorrow, which, a lot of you probably have ambitions that you're going to start, you're going to take that with you. All of the experience that you're going to gain in sales, the ability to prospect, the ability to handle rejections, all those things, you take them with you to wherever it is that you're going. So, this is amazing. So, at some point in your career, you became, was there an ED in the bank?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that. How did that happen? If you can share, how old were you at the time and how did that happen?
Let's see, step back a little bit.
Okay.
I became CEO of Stanbic IBTC Pensions, which is today is the largest, and it was then truly as well. That was 2009.
Okay.
That was 2009, right?
Okay.
So that meant I was 34. I was just before my 34th birthday.
Wow.
And then I became ED in the bank.
Okay.
In 2011.
Okay.
I believe so. I was 36.
Wow.
Yeah, right about that. So yeah.
Well, first of all, that puts you in an exclusive group. You know that, yeah?
Okay.
So there are people, in the history of this country, the people who became EDs in their 30s, we're talking about people like Tony Elumelu. We're talking about people like the late Herbert Wigwe. We're talking about people like Ibuje, Ike Mokwede. That's an exclusive group of people. So how did you get to that point so early? It's early. I would consider it early in the context of our society.
So, I think it's important that people remember that time and chance happens to everyone. All right.
Okay.
And I already talked about how I had been privileged to meet people who believed in young people. All right. So I think it first begins by acknowledging the fact that I was with the right company to get the opportunity. Mr. Peterside became CEO. I think he founded IBTC then at 33.
Wow.
Right. So you can imagine that he was already on that trajectory, believing that when you are at that point, you are strong, you have capability, and you can test and challenge yourself with things. So it wasn't something that he thought that at your age you were unable to do, because at your age he was able to do it. All right. So why not? So you do have a lot of that. Yinka Sonny himself became a CEO in his 30s too. So I don't think there's anything remarkable about that from that perspective.
Okay.
So I think when you come from that stock, all right, then it doesn't look like that big a deal.
Yeah.
But I realized that stepping back and looking at it, not many people may have had that same opportunity or privilege. But to be honest, it's not as though everybody around us did have that. Obviously, it's a pyramid, so not everybody can be CEO or ED per se. But like I said, I learned the power of actually driving results. So value must be created. Execution and the commitment to execution must be real and tangible. So you had to do the work. You were not being rewarded for some random or relationship or familial connection. These were people I did not know from anywhere.
You had to earn it.
All right. So you simply worked and you were rewarded based on how much more work you could deliver.
Fantastic.
All right. So all those things were reflections of the expectations of future value that I could deliver within a team of people.
Okay. All right. So our society is largely driven by survival. In a society where there's a lot of lack and deprivation and poverty, money takes on a certain level of significance. So you find that there is therefore an approach to work for a lot of young people. They see a job as a means to an end, and that end for them is to be able to survive. It's to be able to pay their bills. Now, For someone who is going to rise, for a young person that's looking to, that just gets a job and really wants to rise through the ranks and get to the top, should there be a particular approach to work? What's therefore is the approach to work? Is survival enough?
Okay, so I think that it's a great question you asked,
Yeah.
to be honest, because it seems as if people are effectively being programmed to fail sometimes when you look at it. And I'll explain what I mean.
Okay.
All right, not just throwing around words. And everyone has to go back to first principles and deal things at a logical first principle basis.
Okay.
I said earlier that I teach my children to sell.
Okay.
Because if you cannot communicate value to someone to encourage the person to be able to pay you, all right, wish all you want, all right, at the end of the day, you can't get anything.
Can't get anything.
All right. And if all you can do is sit around and wait for somebody to give you money, then all you can do is survive.
Yeah.
Because you're waiting for someone to give you money, and that money comes from their surplus. And their surplus comes from what they have sold, less what they have chosen to spend by themselves, making room for the surplus that they can give you some of.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So if you think about it logically, all right, you understand that living for survival is not a game plan.
Okay.
All right. It will happen anyway, but it's not a game plan. Now, what I think really is, we all have to go back to first principles. Mr. Peterside used to tell us when we were much younger that the only person that meets you in your house is an armed robber. Every other person you have to go outside to meet.
Fantastic.
So if you think you're going to stay in your house and somehow things are going to come to you, you're a joker. Things will come, but it may not be the things that you want.
Yeah.
He also used to say to us that when you plan yourself to go out, all right, you need to understand that there are always two sets of people. The people you are looking for and the people who are looking for you.
Okay.
All right. The name of the game is to ensure that you find the people who you are looking for and you don't get held down by the people who are looking for you.
Yeah.
All right. So that you can achieve your goals, all right, in terms of what you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
So now when we think about the mindset that many people appear to have, and I think a lot of it's also temporary because you talk about the conversation of children versus the conversation of adults.
Okay.
All right. Children get moved around literally by every wind of doctrine.
Yes.
Every new fad, every activity blows them around. But over time, as they mature, they come to a place of realization that some of the things that they have heard and believed are not true. Then they settle down and mature.
Okay.
The key is to mature early rather than later.
Yeah.
So let's go back to people that are entering the workforce and trying to make a career.
Yeah.
What I would say to them is what I was told when I started my career.
Okay.
All right. That you go to a place to work, it's to work. When they interviewed you, you didn't meet all those people gossiping around, saying all those things about what the company is and what the company is not. You didn't know all those people. You came to work. What is the work that they have prepared for you? Understand very clearly what the result that they expect is, how you can deliver it, all right? And focus on delivering it. You will meet people who will now tell you about, oh, the company did this, the management did that, the people are like this, the people are like that. Don't listen to those people, oh. If they are unhappy with them, why are they still there? All right. You that you have come, you came, they hired you for a purpose. You didn't know all of these people. It's only when people have eaten and they are full, they start seeing all the bad things that the people are doing. All right. But when you were hungry and they were offering you food, did you see all those bad things? Where were they? Where were all those things? Is it not the same people you're complaining about now that gave you before?
Yeah.
You are now full. The people have not changed. All right. What they have given you have not changed. But now they are now bad people. If you think about it, it makes no sense. So if you can manage in your career to stay away and avoid the workplace gossip and all of those things, you will do very well, you will go very far. And I also tell people that if for any reason you think that your goals are now disconnected from the organization and the leadership, change your work address. Don't become a gossip, don't become a backbiter. Because, if I may say, the Bible is very clear.
Okay.
It is only the person who has been faithful in another man's that will be given his own.
Fantastic.
And your faithfulness includes how you conduct yourself.
That's fun. So this is quite profound. And one of the challenges I think we have around here is that our education really just prepares us for the profession, but it doesn't prepare us for the work environment. There's a clear difference. I usually like to say that there's a difference between loving someone and living with someone. They're two different things. It's easy to love someone from afar, but the challenge is in living with someone. And so the work environment is different. People are not taught how to deal with pressure. They are not taught to handle those distractions that you just talked about. Like, you come to the workplace and then some people just get carried away by people who don't have any goals, and things like that. So, for any young person that is listening, I think that one major idea we need to take out of this is the fact that the ultimate reward you get for working in an organization is not the salary. It's who you become at the end of that journey.
Correct.
And that's something that you have to be very intentional about. Okay? All right. So my next question would be that I've always said, and I've read this in a lot of books, that the secrets of successful people are in their daily routines. All right. So what's a daily habit or routine that you think has made a major difference in your life?
It's easy for me to say that there are a couple.
Okay.
All right. So I try to spend time, no matter how little, all right, praying.
Okay.
All right. As they say, prayer changes you. It's not God. It's you. It changes. And it helps you to center. So I was saying to a friend recently about how that I remind myself sometimes I might wake up in a panic because I'm concerned about something that has bothered me. But I remember, follow your routine. What's that routine? You begin in prayer and worship. So that makes a big difference because you can still your heart, all right, reconnect yourself and say, okay, I know what I believe.
Okay.
Because all of life is lived by faith. All right. Nobody knows what is going to happen next. You know what you believe might happen. You know what you hope will happen. Okay. You know what you anticipate could happen. You know what you have prepared to happen. But you do not know what will happen. All right. Yeah. And stepping into it is a pure act of faith. All right. So understanding that you can do your part to be prepared, all right, and then trust and go forward in faith is something that I try to practice every day.
Okay, that's fantastic. So apart from, of course, I know you're big on faith. So apart from prayer, is there any other thing in your daily routine?
Look, I try to exercise.
Okay.
All right, because you have to stay healthy.
Yeah.
I try to sleep well. That's also a big part of my routine.
Okay.
All right. So over the years, at some point, I then developed a challenge with high blood pressure. All right. And part of that was resolved by just simply sleeping well. All right. So trying to do those things. A lot of people, I could easily say I read this, I do that, but those are inconsistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Plus, you, like I said, you don't know what it is that you need, all right? Okay. You know what it is that you should be doing constantly, all right? And it's really important to stay positive about life and the things that can happen. But it's hard to do that if your heart and your mind are not settled, irrespective of the challenges that you face around you. So I try to practice things and disciplines that allow me to center my heart and my mind, all right, to be able to focus on the things that I need to. I use a personal management system where I document the things that I need to do. I keep a very constant to-do documentation so I can keep a track of all the things that I need to do and tick them off one by one and deliberately. I keep a record of conversations that I have, engagements that I should have, so I can communicate with all the people that I'm meeting and engaging with, I'm planning to engage with. Okay. And I try not to go into any conversation unprepared.
Fantastic.
So if I do that every single day, go through as a background to engage in my day, use a calendar very meticulously. So if it's not in my calendar, it's not for me.
It's not for you.
All right. I simply apologize that I forgot. All right. Because it didn't make it into my calendar. We reschedule. All right. And I will try to plan it on my calendar. However, I will say this too. When you are older, like myself, all right, you have the privilege and the luxury, all right, to be able to use a calendar and adopt some of these disciplines. When you are younger, all right, and following people,
Yeah.
you may be less structured in your life and in the way you organize yourself. So from a practical perspective, what I say to younger people is practice a lot of self-discipline and self-management. Don't waste your time on things that are frivolous. A lot of people spend their time on their phone
Scrolling mindlessly.
Yes. I'm not saying you shouldn't do IG or social media, but I'm saying that you should discipline yourself to compartmentalize things so that you are fresh and ready for the challenge of the day.
Fantastic.
If you're not available to the people that need your service, you cannot be rewarded.
Fantastic. Okay, so my next question would be that when you started on your journey climbing this corporate ladder, did you identify any limitations or what you would consider things that were not particularly strengths, maybe limitations or weaknesses that you had or faced at the time? How were you able to identify them and how were you able to rise above them?
Okay, so the answer is yes, but I'll tell you it's not important.
Okay.
All right. In fact, many years later, I found out why it was not important. I just believed at first that it wasn't important, that what was important was what I could in fact do, what were my strengths. Yes, you want to minimize your weaknesses and amplify your strengths, all right? But for me, it was really more instinctive, all right, than it was formal and deliberate.
Okay.
It just didn't make logical sense for me to focus on the things I was not good at, all right, and worry about them. All right, so I just focused on the things that I was good at and tried to do more of them.
Okay.
Later, I met a gentleman in the course of my career who then explained to me why that was the right way, according to him, to do it. And he said, imagine that there were 10 things that you could do. All right, and you could do 8 of them very well and 2 of them very badly. And you spend your time worrying about improving those 2 so that you could now do them well. He said, imagine if you forgot about those 2 and focused on the 8 you could do very well, all right, and did them so much better that nobody could remember the other 2. Which one would be easier to achieve? Focusing on the things that you can do well or the things that you can't do well. And he said to me, think about it as well in this other way. If there are 3 things to be done, 2 of which you can do well and 1 of which you cannot do. And notice I've used these proportions because most people don't realize that there are more advantages and strengths that they have than weaknesses. So I've deliberately structured my examples with more things showing the strength than the weaknesses. So there are 3 things that need to be done. All right, 2 you can do well, 1 you can't do well. Why not simply outsource the one you cannot do well and focus all your energies on becoming excellent and improving the outcomes of the one that you can in fact do well? And he says to me that it's a no-lose proposition. And I have found over time that, when I talk about the experience of supporting and working with people and about co-founding a number of impactful enterprises, part of it is recognizing that sometimes your role is to be number 2, not number 1. So many people think about leading by being in front. All right. They don't realize that sometimes you lead by being at the back. Right. Because the better person to engage the market may not be you for whatever reason. All right. In that circumstance, sometimes the best person to engage the market and clients is you. But it's not all the time that it's you. All right. And when it's not you, part of being really, really self-aware is to understand that it's not you, and your role is to lead, but from the back. Enable the right person to be in front. You see, sometimes we struggle with being right all the time. But as my pastor once said, all right, you can be right but not successful. So do you want to be right? Is that your goal, or do you want to be successful? All right. In an academic environment, being right is prized, but in the real world, being successful is everything. All right. So if you choose to be successful, then you must determine what is the best way to get the result you are looking for. And sometimes it means that you must consciously step down and step out so the right person can actually do it.
Good. That's fantastic. And if you apply the Pareto principle here, you'd realize that it's not all of your efforts that bring the results ultimately. So you want to identify those key things and probably put more energy there. So yeah, makes sense. Okay, so my next question will be about your leadership style. So I know you've led a number of organizations, and because I've worked, at least I've been a consultant for Hygeia, so I've interacted with your people, and over time I've asked questions. What do you think about Obinnia and stuff like that? And I've heard different responses. I remember someone saying, Obinnia will give you mind. He will give you mind to go and achieve. And if you're not careful, if you don't manage it well, you can put yourself in trouble, because people will be wondering, where is all this mind coming from? So I've always been curious to ask you this question. Like, what would you say your leadership style is? Most people have this opinion. I teach personality profiles, and I know that people that lead top organizations, most times, like banks and the rest, high pressure organizations, are usually drivers. In personality profiles, we call them drivers. They are more task oriented than they are people oriented. So they want you to get the job done. They're not kidding around. They're not, So where do you say you fit in? What's your leadership style?
Okay, I think I'll answer the question, but I'll just step back a little bit and say that I think that it's easy to put yourself into a box. All right. So for me, the first thing is to think about being result oriented. What's the outcome that I need? Okay. So I would say that my leadership style is adaptive.
Situational.
Yes. You see, you have the academic example, terminology. So really, I think it depends on where I am. It depends on what is required per time. Okay. So some organizations are in the state of their life cycle, where what it's about is about mobilizing the team and the people. All right. So you've got to be more people focused, because if you don't do anything, there's still money made. All right. So what you want to do is to increase the money that is being made. All right. And that might be the goal or the result, And some organizations are at a point in time in their cycle where really it's about delivering certain outcomes. And honestly, at that point, all right, it's either you can or you can't. All right. So at that point in time, all you want are those that can. And anyone who can't needs to be off the team very quickly. All right. So at that point, you would appear a lot more task oriented. Sometimes you might be in a situation where the organization is almost at the door of death. All right. So it's a rescue mission. At that point, you must be very, very driven, because time is not your friend. All right. And outcomes are really urgent. And you must demonstrate that sense of urgency to be able to rally and carry the people to where you are going. And then sometimes you are at that place where all is well, and the organization literally is printing money hand over foot. And you are in what is required is the badun.
Just keep the people happy.
So at that point it's jollof. Exactly, all right? Just happy people. That they will tell you things like happy customer, happy people, happy this, happy that. And that's your role, to keep the happiness flowing. Right? So I think a lot of it depends
on the situation.
Yes, and what is needed per time. And you just have to be able to respond to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, my next question is, what's a common misconception about achieving success that you like to debunk?
I think that the common misconception is that it's simple or does not require a lot of investment or work. So people believe that they can know without reading, without studying. It's not possible. All right. People think that simply by watching YouTube, all right, and or listening to, excuse the expression, a podcast, you can have all the information that you need. All right. But people don't realize that reading is a more powerful retention tool than listening. All right. If you think about it, you would have to hear something, the studies show, between 7 to 10 times for you to be able to actually keep it and retain it. If you read, all right, 1 or 2 revisions, you're on the money. You're good.
Yeah.
So just in terms of the speed of retention, comprehension, understanding, and ability to implement, reading is a more powerful and potent force than just mere listening. But so people assume that they can achieve success by shortcutting things.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. All right. You kid yourself, it doesn't happen. And if I would say to people, all right, if you want success, be prepared for the investment required. Many people only tell you about the result and show you that, but they don't tell you how many years, how many sleepless nights, how many hours went into it. And truly, for most levels of excellence, that 10,000 hours of practice is just a scratch.
It's just a scratch. Wow. That's powerful. Okay, so if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
That guy, I mean, I'll tell my younger self to make more friends more quickly.
Okay.
All right. And how would this come out if I say it this way now? So I'll tell my younger friend to remember that there are many options in life. All right. So you don't have to be stuck with one.
Okay.
All right. I was very, very fortunate to have met good people. But if I didn't meet people as good as the people I met, with the mindset I had at the time, it may have been a longer journey for me to get to where I was or where I am now. If I consider this to be anything. All right. I would tell my younger self to be loyal.
Okay.
Be committed, be faithful, all right, it pays off.
Okay, fantastic. So we want you to look into that camera. I mean, this podcast is for that young person that has limitations and is aware of their limitations, and they want to do something about transcending, those limitations. So I'd like you to speak to that person from your heart, final words of inspiration.
If you say that something is a problem, just acknowledge it. But quickly look at the things that are not problems and focus on what you can do about the things that are not problems. Don't let the challenges be the things that hold you. In fact, I challenge you. If you thought about 5 things in a day, let no more than one be all the challenges and limitations that you have or that you acknowledge. And I say this irrespective of whether they are physical, mental, psychological, emotional. All they are is what you have called them, limitations. But you know what? Everybody has limitations. And there is no benefit in advertising them. What we advertise are the things that we can in fact deliver. And if it's only one thing that you think you're good at, my brother, my sister, my friend, my son, shout about that one thing all the time. And one day you will see that it will be worth more than all the limitations put together.
Well, thank you so much, Obinnia. I'm sure our audience have gotten a ton of value from this episode. I'm very grateful that you made yourself available for this. Thank you so much. And please follow Obinnia. We're going to, drop his social media handles, across the screen. Follow him. He's an amazing guy, and I'm sure you would learn a lot, interacting with him. You can drop comments in the comment section. We'll be there to respond to your comments and engage with you. So till next time when we have another episode, stay intentional. All the best. Bye.